right, listen, everyone's picking France for the winner. I think it's an obvious choice to go for France as winner as well. But let's just put it into perspective what France will need to do to get to the final, Witty, and to even win it. I have them facing the Netherlands in the round of 32.
Wow.
Which is absolutely crazy. Then they've got to go through Germany. Then they've got to go through, if I'm not mistaken, it's Brazil. And then they've got to go through Spain and England to win it. That's ridiculous. That was my bracket, so that might not happen, probably won't happen, but that's crazy to think that France can go through every single one of those teams to win it. But they're the best squad. They're the deepest squad. They're the most talented squad in my roster. So I think France should be my favourite, and they will beat England in that final as well, because I can never pick the English to win a World Cup final. 66, whatever. Obviously, I think that's got to be my perfect choice, and I think that that one will have a really good chance of hitting, but they got to go through some big teams to be able to get there.
Well, I think you sort of compare it to this season's Champions League, the way that Paris Saint-Germain had to go through the difficult part of the bracket. I guess the question is, who is the Arsenal of the bracket? The way that I was looking at it, I kind of think they might be Argentina, based off of the group, based off of the opponents that might play along the way, but obviously that's sort of a lot of hypotheticals. All right, so next then for you, who is your biggest surprise of the tournament?
A number of surprises. This one maybe not so much for most people. I've been speaking about this generation of Portuguese players for a period of time now. Dark horse we mentioned probably about a year ago, Michael, we had mentioned that. Are Portugal a dark horse, or are they better than a dark horse?
No, I think they're among the favourites, I'd say, at this point.
Yeah, I think they're probably creeping towards that, but it would still be a surprise, I think, if Portugal won it. To be able to get there, in my bracket, I do have Portugal meeting Argentina. Which would be
in Kansas City in the quarterfinal. Oh, that'd be amazing.
Which would be amazing because then we get Ronaldo, Messi story obviously creeping up. Best midfield I think I have in world football comes from this Portuguese side. Obviously outstanding. João Neves, obviously, with what he does in midfield, alongside Wittyngham, and of course you throw in there the Premier League outstanding assister. What's his name again?
Bruno Fernandes.
King Bruno to us. Of course, a great midfield. So I think Portugal are going to be my surprise team to potentially win it. They're a dark horse I mentioned a year ago, and I'm going to stick with it.
Take us straight to disappointment then.
Ooh.
Oh, disappointment come from the Netherlands.
Really, the Dutch?
I'm going for the Dutch, Mike. And you know why? Because they're in a very difficult group. They've got Sweden and Japan in their group, and I really like both of those nations. Sweden crept in, excellent manager in Graham Potter. Two very good goal scorers in amongst their groups that can switch on any given time with Isak and Gyökeres. This is an ageing Netherlands side along that back line with Van Dijk, who's coming off a disappointing season as far as I'm concerned, playing for Liverpool Football Club. But it's also an incredibly injury-hit Dutch side as well. A lot of controversial talking points, even with their own boss, it's controversy. I think the Dutch, the best performance from the Dutch this World Cup will be from their supporters, not from the players on the pitch. I just think that the Netherlands don't finish 1 or 2 in their group. I think they finish 3rd.
Wow. They're in the group with Japan, which is going to be and Sweden.
Tricky Japan side as well.
Yes, of course.
Good Japan side.
I think you look at the Netherlands, obviously they're bringing the double-decker bus over to the United States. They'd love to have that. So the disappointment is, though, coming from the Netherlands, despite the fact that they're jumping to the left and jumping to the right.
Yes.
All right, Lahoud, let's go for your starting first.
Go one more.
Oh, we got one more. Excuse me. Biggest
I
upset.
saved the best for last.
Oh, yes, of course.
You didn't like your picks, that's why.
I saved the best for last.
Biggest upset.
All right, let me just reveal what my biggest upset is. I am going for, not that one, I'm going for Argentina to be my biggest upset.
Okay.
And the reason why, I think Argentina will get to a place where they get to quarterfinals. Because if you actually look at the group stage they've got, very doable, right? They may be able to rest Lionel Messi for a long period of time. If you look at this Argentina side going through the group stages into the knockout rounds, relatively easy as well. And then when you look at Argentina getting to the closing stages, I've got them going up against Portugal. And I think Portugal are my biggest surprise. So I think that what we'll see is the Argentinian national team not make it to the Final Four. That's my biggest shout here. So that's where the upset comes from. Argentina, forget this. I think it's going to be Argentina, not in the Final Four. I think Argentina, the holders, won't make it.
Well, there used to be this curse where the team that won it were terrible the next year. That was broken by France getting back to the final in 2022. But it used to be when Germany won it in 2014, they haven't been to the knockout round since. And so I think you could potentially see for Argentina that prospect for disappointment. It might not be in the group stage, but it might be earlier in the tournament than some expect. All right, then let's move to Lahoud's picks. And you guys have switched positions now. I think Ian wanted to look taller in the big shot. So let's start first with Lahoud. Who is your winner going to be?
I'm going to go and keep this this winning machine that the Spanish national team have right now. And you can look at some of the injuries, but the fact that Lamine Yamal is getting rested and he's getting his body back in order, he's a difference maker. And some players you might look at, the disappointment that you talked about, Virgil van Dijk for Liverpool, Marc Cucurella, when he puts on the Chelsea jersey, not the same player. Chelsea fans, you might agree with me on this in the second half of the season. You might actually want him out of your club at different points. He might actually want out of the club. That's a different story. But when he puts on a Spanish national team jersey, he becomes consistent. He becomes a leader. The X factor for Spain, for me, is a player that you're familiar with, Witty, Rodri.
Yes.
His health, the fact that he is going to be getting sharper. I watched the recent friendly, just the telepathy, the balance between him, Pedri, Fabio Ruiz, they give that Portuguese side a run for their money in terms of the best midfield at the World Cup. There's just this winning formula, this winning appetite. I think that they're going to meet Portugal in the final, and CR7 is going to get oh so close, but oh so far from getting hands on that World Cup. Disappointment.
I got to swap your midfield, though, because I do love your shout for Rodri, but I don't feel like he's the same player. I think they rely heavily on Pedri, but it's not a bad duo, is it?
No, not at all. Not at all. Won them the Euros.
It's extraordinary. I didn't think about the players that are on the bench for them in midfield.
Yeah.
It's absolutely crazy. They will miss Fermin Lopez, though, in this tournament. All right, so Lahoud, next up for you is your biggest surprise of the competition.
So one team that I don't think anyone is talking about, but maybe you looked at the South American qualifiers and you said, what is that team doing in second place? Ecuador.
Love it.
Ecuador, one of the best defensive sides you're going to see at the World Cup. You think of players like Joel Ordóñez. You think of Pierre Hincapié, who made a difference for Arsenal as well. He can go through the team.
William Pacho?
William Pacho as well, one of the most underrated players in European football. Right now. And for Ecuador, the big question mark coming into the World Cup is where are the goals going to come from? I'll give you a name. It's not Ender Valencia. The difference maker for them in the final third is a player that we're going to be covering in Serie A, in John Yeboah. He plays as a winger, he can play centrally, just has this extra dimension in creating something out of nothing. And I just think that Ecuador, the group that they're in, and Germany, Cote d'Ivoire, is there for the taking. At the World Cup, if you can be defensively sound, you can get some of your difference makers in the final third to really step up to the big plate.
Love it.
You have an experienced player in Valencia, but now it's the supporting cast, the younger players to step up to the big moment. They can play party spoilers in this group. I wouldn't be surprised if they top the group as well.
You touched on an important point there. Defensively, they don't concede goals. They're so difficult to score goals against. I will say the contrary to that is that they don't score enough for me to be a big surprise. But it's a very difficult team to beat. So, I mean, I'm intrigued by that one. Actually, the Germany game against them, that's the first big test, I think. You're going to see, ooh, this could be an interesting team.
They played 18 games in World Cup qualifying. They scored 14, and they conceded 5. So both of your points are right there. 19 goals total in 18 games is absolutely incredible, but maybe that defense can get them far. Biggest disappointment then?
Look, everyone's got this song, and there's this theme song, I think, about the World Cup. It's coming home. It's coming home. That's right. England are coming home. They're going to come home very early for me.
Going home.
They're going home. Thank you very much. They're coming home without any silverware in their back pocket.
Wow.
Look, I know that Thomas Tuchel is the man with the master plan, but in a World Cup, you need depth, right? This is the longest World Cup we're going to have in World Cup history. When you look at the starting 11, you think, okay, that's a proper side. You get the best striker in the world with Harry Kane, one of the best midfielders in the world when he is fit and mentally ready to go, in Jude Bellingham. I'm not here to talk about Morgan Rogers as a starter for England. Jude will start for the Three Lions. End of discussion for me. But it's what worries me beyond that. When you look at the bench, it's just the lack of quality in the big moments for me.
Really?
Noni Madueke,
you're
going to rely on Noni Madueke in a big game, in a knockout round. That's going to scare you
Marcus
if you're
Rashford,
Argentina.
Ollie Watkins, Ivan Toney.
Marcus Rashford's different. Ivan Toney, big international stage. If it's not a penalty kick, I just don't see it in terms of quality, in terms of depth of quality for the Three Lions, and that is where they could get exposed. The first 11, I definitely see it, but a Reece James who is injury prone, I can't see Reece James surviving game after game after game in the grind to make it all the way to the World Cup final. So I think injuries and a lack of quality of depth can catch up with England.
Do you know what? He left a lot of quality of depth out of the squad. You know, Foden, no Cole Palmer. Like, to me, I would have taken both of those players because they have the X factor. And in this group, to Mike's point, maybe they don't have the X factor with the depth. It's a great squad, though. And I do think England go far, so I'm disagreeing with Mike.
All right, so then biggest upset.
Biggest upset is one that, look, you and I spent a lot of time in the LA area in Southern California, and I know it's politically charged right now. I know there's a lot of emotions around it, but just focusing on the football in itself, one game that I think could define the legacy of a group and a national team is Iran to beat Belgium. Wow. It depends on where the game is at the World Cup, but there's a lot that these players are going to. And just sticking strictly to the football, I've been there as a player when there's distractions going on around you, and sometimes it can ruin a group, but other times it can bring a group together. And when you have this sense of community that you're going to see, the game's going to be in Inglewood, which there's a massive, massive Persian population in the Los Angeles area. You think of Glendale. All of Glendale is going to come down to this game, and it's going to give them the biggest boost. And I was inspired by this because the last World Cup, you saw a massive difference from Iran. The opening game, they looked shell-shocked. The second game, they look like a completely different team. And I just think you're going to see this unified front that's going to shock the world and beat the Belgians.
I love this shout.
It's a big shout. It's a big shout. And obviously, the level of community that can be there potentially for Iran could be enormous. All right, then. So I'll give my picks here. I'll agree with you, Ian, first on my winner, and I'm going to say France. It seems like the most obvious one. I kept looking at the board. I kept trying to find a new winner, a different winner. I just don't see anyone other than France. This team is too good. They have too many great players, particularly in that forward line. They go 7 to 8 deep with world-class talent, world-class stars in this group. I just don't see a way that they're held down for enough of a game in order to completely be eliminated. I think, yeah, maybe there's some issues in midfield. Maybe Tchouameni doesn't arrive in the best form. Maybe N'Golo Kante doesn't either, or Manu Kone, whomever in midfield. But I see France getting to the final against Argentina. I have a repeat of 2022, and I think it's largely because of the path for Argentina. I think Argentina are on the lighter side of the bracket.
100%.
And I think the one thing that could potentially change that, I actually had Portugal finishing second in the group to Colombia.
Wow.
If Portugal are in that half of the draw, then maybe that changes things up. Obviously, the draw plays such an enormous part, but in the end, France just have too much. So that takes us on to biggest surprise. So much talk about the host nations. Which host nation is going to star? I think it's going to be Mexico. I think Mexico, because the number one thing that I don't think has been factored in enough with them, first off, they play a lot of their friendly games in the United States. Got to make that money. But they're back at the Estadio Azteca, the renovated Estadio Azteca. An Estadio Azteca that is going to be ready and teeming with fans that are ready to get behind the team and create a legitimate sense of atmosphere and home field advantage. There is no question, like there might be with the United States in some games, oh, maybe there's a big Turkish population. They might fill the stands and create, kind of a 50-50 crowd. In Mexico City, you will see the green, you will see the black, and that is it. You will see a fan base that is right behind the team.
You'll see that anywhere, Chris.
Yeah.
Right, you'll see that anywhere. And you also, I think, have an enormous home field advantage playing at altitude and playing as well with a sort of difference in air quality as well that a lot of teams are expecting.
Just on your point there, Mexico, in my bracket, could face England in
That
Mexico
takes me on to
City.
my biggest disappointment.
Really? In Mexico City.
My biggest disappointment, the English national team.
Come on,
is
Mexico beat England.
I have Mexico beating England. That covers the sort of rest of the categories.
Thank you.
Biggest disappointment, England. Biggest upset is Mexico against England in the last 16.
That's why your eyes went ding.
Right.
I said that.
So I think with England, I'm not necessarily as doubting of the talent as you are. I think this is a great side. But the one thing that I think is going to hold England back at this tournament, they're trying to prepare for it. On day of recording on Monday, they're playing a friendly in Orlando. It was delayed because of weather. And they're trying to adjust to Florida heat. They're trying to adjust to different kinds of conditions because I just don't think the English have it to play in altitude, at smog, in rain, in heat. And they're going to be playing at Estadio Azteca in July.
Wow.
I mean, this is not going to set up well for them in terms of conditions. And that takes us on to my biggest upset. There's Memo Ochoa. I'm not sure if he's going to play. I have Mexico beating England in the last 16, which would take them into a quarterfinal in
I'm just going
Miami.
to tell you right now. He's going to watch Scotland this weekend. Listen, they already love you, Chris. They already love you. They love you even more now.
I have them out in the last 16.
Wow.
I don't think, no matter what, England are getting through a last 16 game in July at Azteca or a quarterfinal in Miami at 5 p.m. Quarterfinal in Miami at 5 p.m. They're going to die. They're going to melt. They're going to melt. I just don't see it. They have to mentally overcome the hurdle of conditions. And I just don't think they're going to. I don't think they're going to after a long Premier League season. So many of the guys going to the end of the Champions League as well.